At my own birthday party, the one my family threw for me, my mother handed me a leather folder and smiled. "It's just a little paperwork, sweetheart. Just sign it." The first line read, "I, Anna Grace Langston, hereby relinquish all rights to the $12 million inheritance." If you've ever been hurt, not by strangers, but by the very people who share your blood, if you've ever felt like love came with a price, your silence, your money, your sense of self, then stay with me. Because I'm going to tell you how I walked away from that trap, not with rage, but with faith, with forgiveness, and with a choice to finally choose myself. My name is Anna Grace Langston. I'm 28, live in downtown Chicago, and work as a senior financial consultant for a top-tier firm. On paper, my life looks pristine: stable income, elegant apartment, a tidy calendar colored with client meetings and quarterly reports. But off paper, in the cracks between responsibility and reality, is where the real story hides. People often describe me as the reliable one, the glue, the steady rock of the Langston family. It's a title that sounds noble until you realize it's just another word for expendable. Over the past decade, I've silently footed the bill for a life I didn't live. When my younger brother Mark lost his college scholarship from partying too hard, I drained my savings to pay the remaining tuition, twice. When my father racked up over $60,000 in debts from a string of high-risk, high-reward investments that turned out to be nothing more than golf course scams, I refinanced my condo to cover it. And when my mother's credit cards ballooned from endless home decor shopping sprees, I paid them off in full, every time, without fail, without thanks. They never asked how I managed. No one asked if I had enough left for myself, because in their eyes, I was Anna, the one who had it all together, the one who always came through, the one who never said no. I used to wear that like a badge of honor. Now it feels like a chain. There's a particular kind of loneliness in being needed for your wallet, not your presence. In being praised for your sacrifice but never invited into joy. I remember sitting alone in my car after another emergency call from my mother, this time about a broken water heater they couldn't possibly afford to fix, and thinking maybe if I stopped answering, they'd finally see me. But of course I answered. I always did. I told myself I was being a good daughter, a good sister, that family is family, and that loyalty meant never keeping score. But slowly, that mantra began to choke me. Because love, I realized, shouldn't have to be earned through quiet suffering. The truth I didn't want to admit? I was terrified of what would happen if I ever stopped giving. Would they still love me? Would they even speak to me? Or had I become nothing more than a bank account with a heartbeat? My therapist, back when I could afford one, once told me, "You're mistaking love for usefulness. That's why you're always exhausted." She was right. But the voice that haunted me most didn't come from any therapist or self-help book. It came from a woman I loved more than anything, my grandmother, Louise. She was the only person in my family who ever truly saw me, who saw past the salary and the perfectly ironed blazers, past the good girl routine I played for everyone else's comfort. I remember visiting her in Vermont during the summers, curled up beside her on the old porch swing. Her voice was always calm, but her words struck deep. Don't let people steal the light inside you just because they can't find their own. She'd say it often, usually after I'd finished venting about another time I picked up the tab or canceled a vacation because someone in the family had an emergency. At the time, I didn't fully understand what she meant. I do now. My light, whatever it was, had been slowly dimmed by the people I loved most. Not through violence, not even cruelty, just expectation. Manipulation masked as dependence. Praise wrapped around guilt. It's a strange thing, isn't it? How the people who raise you can also be the ones who undo you, thread by thread. Not because they want to destroy you, but because they never learned how to love you beyond what you could do for them. I still remember the last voicemail Grandma Louise left me, just a few weeks before she passed. Her voice was weaker than usual, but there was something steady underneath. "Anna, If things ever start to feel too heavy, remember, your heart was made for truth, not for carrying everyone else's lies. I didn't know what she meant at the time, but I saved it, played it sometimes late at night, when the silence of my apartment wrapped around me like a too heavy coat. Something had to change. I didn't know what yet. But I could feel it coming, like the first rumble of a distant storm. Little did I know that storm would arrive wrapped in glitter balloons, catered hors d'oeuvres, and a smiling invitation from my mother. Come by the house Friday night. We have something special planned just for you. It sounded harmless, but my instincts, dormant for too long, flared awake. Because in my family, something special almost always meant something for them. And this time, I was no longer sure I could afford the cost. The Langston house still looked the same. White siding, neatly trimmed hedges, the familiar creak of the wooden porch that Anna had helped pay to renovate 2 summers ago. The house might have been in her parents' names, but every nail, tile, and light fixture had some part of her embedded in it. She parked in the driveway, her fingers still resting on the steering wheel long after the engine cut. Something special, her mom had said. Anna should have known better. Ellen Langston's idea of special had often turned into subtle manipulation disguised as family bonding. Still, she had come. She always came. When she rang the bell, the door flew open. Her mother stood there, dressed like she was going to a charity gala, pearl earrings, a bright red lipstick she only wore on big nights. Her eyes sparkled just a little too much. "Surprise," Ellen sang, pulling Anna into a tight, practiced hug. "Happy early birthday, sweetheart." The living room was full. Uncles, aunts, cousins she hadn't seen since Christmas 2 years ago. Even Zach was there, standing near the kitchen with a drink in hand, looking slightly uncomfortable. "Wow," Anna said, forcing a smile. "You guys really didn't have to do all this." "Oh, but we wanted to," Ellen beamed. "You've done so much for everyone, Anna. Tonight, we just want to celebrate you." Her dad appeared with a glass in his hand. "Your favorite," he said with a grin, offering her the cocktail. "Green apple gin." Anna blinked. "I haven't liked gin since I was 25. He chuckled, pretending not to hear. They led her to the center of the room, to the couch where a small table had been set up beside it. On the table was a leather folder, neatly placed like it was waiting for her. She sat down, her spine stiff. "What's this?" "Oh, just some boring paperwork," Ellen said quickly, placing a manicured hand over Anna's. "Let's look at it later, sweetheart. Tonight's about you." Anna was already flipping it open. The title on the first page, Asset Reallocation Agreement, Louise Langston Inheritance Trust. Her eyes narrowed. She kept reading. "I, Anna Grace Langston, hereby relinquish all legal rights to the Louise Langston Inheritance Trust." Her hands stilled. "What is this?" she asked quietly. Ellen's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "Just a formality, honey. Tax-related. Nothing major." "Tax-related or transferring $12 million in assets into your names without telling me?" Anna said, voice calm but razor-sharp. Zach stepped forward. "Come on, Anna. Don't make this a thing. Everyone's already agreed." Anna's laugh was small, brittle. "Oh, I bet they have." "Don't do this," Ellen hissed under her breath, the sugary tone gone. "Don't make a scene. Not in front of everyone." Anna closed the folder and rested it on her lap. "Then let everyone hear it. They deserve the truth." The room fell silent. Uncle Todd looked away. Aunt Grace shifted uncomfortably. Her cousin Jessica tapped on her phone like she hadn't just heard someone accuse the family of trying to commit financial fraud. "I don't understand," her dad said stiffly. "Why are you being so dramatic? This is about streamlining things, keeping it in the family." "No," Anna replied. "This is about control, about making sure I don't have the power Grandma gave me." Her mother's voice turned sharp. "You already have more than enough. A 6-figure job, no mortgage, no kids. What do you even need all that money for?" Anna felt something inside her snap, not in rage, but in clarity. "It's not about needing it," she said. It's about Grandma trusting me to honor her wishes. She didn't leave that money so you could buy another condo in Miami." Her mother's eyes darted. "This isn't what she would have wanted." "I think it's exactly what she expected," Anna cut in, "and that's why she didn't leave it to you." A hush settled over the room like fog. Her father stood up, trying to salvage the moment. "Anna, let's not do this now. Please, just sign it. We'll go over everything later." She stood too, folder in hand. "I'm not signing anything tonight, or ever, and she looked at each face in that room. Faces she had celebrated holidays with, sent Christmas cards to, loaned money to, and suddenly they felt like strangers. "This isn't a birthday party," she said. "It's a setup, and I'm done playing along." Her mom reached for her arm. "There will be consequences if you walk out that door." Anna looked down at the hand, then back up at her mother. "I've lived with consequences my whole life," she said, voice steady. "Now I choose clarity." She placed the folder on the dining room table, calmly turned, and walked to the door. Not with anger, not with tears, but with a strange, still peace she hadn't felt in years. She stepped outside into the night air. It was cool and quiet. Behind her, laughter had turned to murmurs, and somewhere deep in her chest, the weight she'd carried for years began to loosen. She didn't know what tomorrow held, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid to find out. The envelope arrived 2 days after the birthday ambush. It bore no return address, only her name, Anna Grace Langston, in an elegant cursive that sent a shiver down her spine. She knew that handwriting. It was her grandmother Louise's. Inside was a single sheet of cream paper, thick and faintly scented with lavender. It read, "Dearest Anna, if this letter reaches you, it means what I feared has come to pass. Go see my attorney, Mr. Gerald Price. I've left something for you. Truth you may need when the shadows come. With all my love, Grandma Louise." Anna stared at the letter for a long moment, the edges trembling in her hands. Truth. Shadows. Her heart began to race. That Friday, she flew to Boston. The law office of Gerald Price and Associates was tucked inside a red brick building just off Cambridge Street, ivy crawling along the windows like silent witnesses. A brass nameplate gleamed beside the door. The receptionist, a soft-spoken woman named Patricia, led Anna down a long hallway to a sunlit office lined with leather-bound books and warm mahogany. Gerald Price stood to greet her. A composed man in his early 60s, he had kind eyes, silver hair, and the presence of someone who had seen far more than he ever said. "Miss Langston," he said, extending his hand. "I've been expecting you." She sat, hands folded in her lap, not trusting her voice just yet. "Mr." Price pulled open a drawer and removed a thick manila envelope and a small black USB drive. He placed both on the desk between them. "Your grandmother was meticulous," he said. "Before her passing, she recorded a private message and collected documents she believed you might one day need." Anna's throat tightened. "Can I see the video now?" He nodded and inserted the USB into a sleek silver laptop. The screen blinked once, then filled with the warm, familiar image of Louise Langston. Silver hair pulled back neatly, glasses perched on her nose, eyes clear despite the frailty in her voice. "Anna, if you're watching this," her voice began, "then things have unfolded just as I feared. I hope I'm wrong, but I've seen the signs for years." Anna leaned forward, every breath held. "You were always the only one who gave without asking, who carried the weight, even when it wasn't yours to carry. That's why I left everything to you, not because you needed it, but because you were the only one I could trust to do what's right." Louise's voice grew quieter, more deliberate. "If anyone, including your parents, attempts to coerce you into relinquishing the inheritance, the clause I built into the trust will activate. Every asset will be automatically transferred to the 4 nonprofit organizations I selected." Anna's eyes widened. Mr. Price spoke gently. They don't know about that clause. Your grandmother insisted it remain undisclosed unless absolutely necessary. The screen shifted to legal documents. Familiar pages now highlighted with Louise's handwritten notes. And there it was, in bold. Any attempt to force the heir to forfeit rights will trigger the full redirection of all assets to charitable foundations, no exception. Anna sat in stunned silence. It wasn't just a warning, it was a shield. A last line of defense from a woman who had foreseen the worst and tried to protect her even from the grave. "May I have a copy of this?" she asked quietly. "Of course," Gerald said, handing her a second USB and a bound set of papers. "And one more thing." He opened another envelope and revealed a stack of printed documents, bank statements, wire transfers, letters, even audio transcripts. Anna's eyes scanned the top page. Credit cards opened in her name at 19. Transfers marked as medical expenses that had gone into her father's personal account. Multiple cash withdrawals from the inheritance fund, each traced to luxury goods, casino trips, and vacation rentals booked under aliases. Her head swam. "How long—" "Your grandmother began collecting these records 10 years ago," Gerald said. "She hoped it wouldn't come to this, but she prepared for the day it might." Anna clutched the folder to her chest. She had come for answers and found ammunition, and more than that, validation. Her instincts hadn't been wrong. Her exhaustion hadn't been weakness. The quiet voice inside her begging her to stop being the family fixer hadn't been selfishness. It had been survival. That evening, back in her apartment, Anna sat at her dining table with the USB beside her coffee mug, the documents spread out in front of her like a battlefield map. She didn't cry. Not this time. Instead, she breathed, slowly, deeply. She wasn't just someone who had an inheritance, she was someone who had been entrusted with it, by a woman who saw her light before Anna ever knew it was dimming. She wasn't sure what she would do next, but for the first time in her life, the choice was finally hers. The folder from Gerald Price remained untouched on Anna's kitchen counter for 2 days. Not because she didn't believe the contents, it was all too real, but because she didn't know what to do with the truth. It was too heavy, too loaded. It didn't set her free. It made her feel even more trapped, tangled in a legacy built not on love, but on quiet exploitation. On the third night, while searching for a notebook in an old cedar box her grandmother had given her in college, she stumbled across something she hadn't seen in years. A small, weathered Bible, leather soft with age, the gold-lettered title faded into the cover. Inside the front flap, a note in her grandmother's looping script. "For my Anna, when silence weighs too much, may these words carry you back to light. Grandma Louise." She flipped through the pages, many of which were underlined, annotated in pencil, or bookmarked with tiny slips of paper. Louise had always been a woman of quiet faith, not preachy, never pushy, but deeply rooted. She read scripture the way some people read poetry, with reverence and discovery. Anna paused on a verse her grandmother had circled multiple times. "Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." Romans 12:21. A line was drawn beneath it. Beside it, her grandmother had scribbled in the margin. "It takes more strength to forgive than to fight, but forgiveness gives you back yourself." Anna stared at the words until her vision blurred. She wasn't angry, not anymore, not exactly, she was lost. She realized in that moment she had spent her whole life trying to be what others needed, but never stopped to ask what she needed. And maybe what she needed now wasn't a plan, or revenge, or even justice. Maybe she needed peace. The next morning she woke early, showered, dressed simply, and walked through the cool Chicago air until she reached the small white chapel near Lincoln Park. She'd passed it 100 times on her way to the train, but never once stepped inside. The doors were already open. There were only a handful of people inside, an elderly couple holding hands, a young woman with headphones still dangling from her hoodie, a man in a maintenance uniform sitting near the back. Anna took a seat near the middle. No one looked at her. No one whispered. A pastor with kind eyes and a coffee-stained Bible stepped to the front. He wasn't in robes or anything ornate, just jeans and a blazer, sleeves rolled up like he had been working with his hands before this. He began to speak, slowly, not with theatrics, but with truth. "Forgiveness," he said, "isn't weakness. It isn't even about the person who wronged you. Forgiveness is freedom. And it's not about whether they deserve it. It's about whether you deserve peace." Anna leaned forward slightly. "Some of you," he continued, "have been carrying burdens that were never yours to carry. Debt, shame, guilt, control. Maybe from family, maybe from someone close. But God's love," he said, "is not a transaction. It doesn't say, 'Be perfect and I'll love you.' It says, 'Come as you are, and I'll restore you.'" Anna's throat tightened. "Sometimes," the pastor said gently, "the bravest thing you can do is not to fight back, but to lay your pain at the feet of the one who sees it all, the one who says, 'You don't have to carry this anymore.'" Tears welled in her eyes, not from grief, not from anger, but from recognition. For the first time in years, Anna didn't feel alone in her struggle. She didn't feel like a mistake. She didn't feel like a pawn in her family's legacy or a wallet in a nice dress. She felt seen by a God who had never asked her to prove her worth, only to receive his love. The tears came then, silent at first, then steady. She wasn't even sure what she was crying for. Maybe for the years she'd lost. Maybe for the little girl inside her who never learned to say no. Maybe for the woman she had finally started becoming. After the service ended, she sat quietly for a long time. One of the volunteers, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, came over and gently handed her a tissue. She didn't ask questions, she didn't pry. She just said, "You're not alone, sweetheart. You never were." Anna held that truth in her heart all the way home. That night, she reopened the Bible. Her fingers traced Romans 12:21 again. "Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." She realized she didn't have to become like the people who hurt her to protect herself from them. She didn't need revenge. She didn't need permission to draw boundaries. She needed faith. And for the first time she had it, not because someone told her to, but because she had encountered it, personally, quietly, powerfully. And now, something was stirring inside her. A resolve. Not just to protect what was rightfully hers, but to walk through it with a heart that remained intact, not hardened. She wasn't just going to fight for truth. She was going to live it. Anna cleaned her apartment like she was preparing for a sacred ceremony, not out of obligation, but out of quiet intention. The dining table was cleared, the curtains drawn back. A projector was placed carefully in the corner, facing the blank white wall. The small USB drive, her grandmother's last message, sat beside her laptop like a key waiting to open a locked door. That morning, she sent a short text to her mother. "I'd like to resolve things peacefully. Please come to my apartment at 6 p.m. tonight. Bring Dad and Mark." The response came almost immediately. "I knew you'd come to your senses. We'll be there." Ellen Anna didn't reply. She wasn't coming to her senses. She was coming to the truth. They arrived 5 minutes early. Her mother wore a slate gray pantsuit, heels clicking across the hardwood floor like it was a courtroom. Her father looked like he'd aged in the last week, though the familiar red tie, his power tie as he called it, still held its place like a final illusion of control. Mark trailed behind, hands shoved in his pockets, eyes avoiding hers. "Where's the lawyer?" Ellen asked as she stepped inside. "There's no lawyer tonight," Anna said calmly, stepping forward. "Just the truth. Please, sit down." They did, albeit reluctantly. Anna walked over to the projector and pressed play. The screen lit up. And there she was, Grandma Louise. Her silver hair was tied neatly, her posture straight despite the visible signs of illness. But her voice, warm, steady, unapologetic, cut through the room like a bell. "If you're watching this, it means Anna refused to sign whatever you brought her." Mark looked down. Ellen didn't move. "I built a trust not just of money, but of values. And I chose Anna because she never demanded, never manipulated, never used family as currency. She simply gave, sometimes too much. That ends now." Anna's heart pounded, but she kept her face still. "The inheritance is legally hers, all of it. There are conditions. It may be used only for her personal well-being, her education, her future. If any family member attempts to pressure her, the trust activates its protection clause. 50% of all funds will be redirected to the nonprofit organizations I've selected." Ellen's face twisted. "She didn't mean that." "She did," Anna said softly, pausing the video. "And it's all notarized and enforceable." "You're turning your back on your family," Richard snapped. "I'm drawing a boundary," Anna replied. "There's a difference." Her father stood up, voice rising. "I built this family. I paid for your schools. I held this household together." "With my money," Anna said, cutting him off. "You held it together with my income, my credit, my silence." Ellen interjected. "You're being ungrateful. Everything we did was to protect your comfort," Anna finished. "Not mine." Her voice didn't shake. It didn't need to. She wasn't angry. She was anchored. She pulled a folder from under the table and placed it in the center. "These are the original trust documents. Legal, sealed, complete. Here's a copy for each of you. If you attempt to challenge it, the funds will begin transferring immediately." Richard's hand clenched. "You don't have to do this." "I'm not doing it to you," Anna said. "I'm doing it for me." A long silence followed. Her mother's eyes searched hers, as if trying to find a crack to crawl through. "You really think you're better than us now?" Anna blinked slowly. "No, I think I'm finally starting to believe I'm not less than you." She walked over and stood by the door, not to push them out, but to mark the end. "You're still my family," she said. "But you don't get to decide how I love you anymore." Ellen stood, purse in hand. "You'll regret this. One day you'll need us." Anna opened the door gently. "Maybe," she said. "But today I need peace." They left without another word, and Anna, standing alone in the quiet of her apartment, realized something profound. She hadn't won a battle. She had walked away from a war, not with weapons, but with truth. And the truth didn't roar. It whispered, "You are finally free." The old cafe on Belmont and Ashland hadn't changed in over 2 decades. The same dusty booths, the same chipped coffee mugs, the same sun-faded Coca-Cola signs in the windows. It smelled like cinnamon rolls and burnt toast, just like it had when Anna was 8, sitting across from her father on Saturday mornings, swinging her feet beneath the vinyl seat. Today, those same feet were planted firmly on the ground, no longer a child, no longer naive. She arrived first. The waitress recognized her, smiled, and led her to a booth in the back. Anna ordered a plain black coffee. No sugar, no cream. She wasn't here for comfort. 10 minutes later, her father walked in, slower than she remembered, thinner too. He gave her a sheepish smile as he approached. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic," he muttered, sliding into the seat across from her. Anna didn't bother replying. She reached into her bag and pulled out a thick manila envelope. Quietly, she placed it on the table between them. "What's this?" he asked, brow furrowed. "Truth," she said. "All of it." He opened the flap and began flipping through the contents. Bank statements, wire transfers, credit card applications in her name, opened when she was 19, a spreadsheet of gambling charges. Purchase records for a used luxury SUV in Miami, bought with money her mother had claimed was for Mark's surgery. He kept flipping, slower now. His face lost color. His lips parted, but no words came out. "Where did you get all this?" he finally whispered. Grandma kept records, Anna replied. She knew what was happening. She just didn't confront you. Not while she was alive. Richard leaned back in the booth, eyes closed. It wasn't supposed to get this far, he murmured. But it did, Anna said, and I paid for every mile. He looked up at her, his voice quiet but heavy. What do you want from me, Anna? There it was. The question she had waited years to be asked. What do you want? Not how much can you give? Not how can you fix this? But what do you want? She met his eyes, unblinking. I want the truth to be acknowledged, she said softly. I want you to admit what you did. Not to me. To yourself. He nodded slowly, shame spreading across his face like ink in water. And I want you to know, she continued, that I forgive you. His head jerked up. But why? He asked, voice cracking. After everything? After what we did to you? Anna's voice was steady, but gentle. Because I've met someone who taught me how. Richard stared at her, confused. I've spent my whole life trying to earn love, she said. By giving, by pleasing, by sacrificing. But none of it brought peace. Then one day I walked into a church. By accident, I thought. But it wasn't. I sat there and heard a pastor say, forgiveness isn't about the other person deserving it. It's about you deserving peace. She smiled faintly. And I realized I don't want to carry this bitterness anymore. I don't want to spend the rest of my life punishing people just because they didn't know how to love me properly. Richard lowered his gaze. His fingers clutched the edge of the envelope like it might steady him. I'm not here to curse you, Anna said. I'm not here to expose you. I'm not even here to demand anything from you. Then why did you call me here? Because I wanted you to see me, she whispered. Not the provider, not the fixer, just your daughter. He swallowed hard. I made mistakes, he said finally. A lot of them. Some I knew were wrong, and some I told myself were okay because we were family. He looked up at her, eyes moist. But I see it now. What we did to you, it wasn't love. It was fear disguised as need. Anna said nothing. She just nodded. A long silence passed between them. The waitress came and refilled their coffees without saying a word. Anna wrapped her hands around the warm ceramic, grounding herself in the moment. I'm not asking to be a father again, Richard said after a while. But maybe I can start learning how to be human again. She offered a small, weary smile. That's between you and God, she said. But I'm rooting for you. He nodded. As they stood to leave, he hesitated, then asked, Do you think she'd be proud of you? Your grandma? Anna paused at the door. Then she turned, her voice like a quiet flame. I think she already was. That's why she left me the tools to build a different kind of life. They walked out into the crisp air. No hug, no dramatic goodbye. But for the first time in their relationship, there was no mask. And that, Anna thought, was more sacred than reconciliation. It was truth. 2 weeks after the final confrontation, Anna stepped into the top-floor office of Langston and Hartley as its newly appointed CEO. It should have felt like victory. It didn't. Not exactly. There were no fireworks, no champagne toasts, no gleaming headlines. Just quiet, dignified change. The old mahogany desk her father once ruled from remained, but she had cleared the clutter. The family portrait he had proudly displayed for years had been taken down. In its place, she hung one of her grandmother's oil paintings, a narrow forest path lit by the last golden light of day. She liked the symbolism. This wasn't about erasing the past. It was about choosing a new way forward. Despite owning one of the most successful investment advisory firms in the region, Anna declined offers for televised interviews or cover spreads. She didn't want her story sensationalized. She wasn't here to play the role of the wronged heiress turned CEO. She was here to build something different. 6 months into her leadership, she launched the Louise Grace Foundation, Named in honor of her grandmother, the foundation's mission was both radical and intimate, to provide financial literacy, emotional counseling, and legal support for individuals manipulated or exploited by their own families. Financial abuse doesn't always look like theft, Anna explained in the foundation's first community event. Sometimes it wears the mask of love, loyalty, or family duty. But real love doesn't come with silent contracts. The first few applications to the foundation came from young adults, many of them first-generation professionals, who had taken out loans for their parents, co-signed for siblings, or given away their savings out of guilt. One young woman cried in Anna's office saying, "I didn't even know this had a name. I just thought I was being a good daughter." Anna held her hand gently. "I thought the same thing once." The foundation quickly partnered with law firms, counselors, and universities. They developed seminars called Boundaries and Bank Accounts, When Love Costs Too Much, and You're Worth Your Wallet. The walls of the foundation's main hallway were painted a soft, calming cream, with quiet photographs of forests, open skies, and handwritten notes from former clients. But at the center, right above the welcome desk, was a single framed verse, printed in gold foil. "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you." John 14:27. It wasn't just a verse, it was a promise, and it was the compass for everything Anna did from that point on. Despite her title, Anna kept her life simple. She lived in a modest apartment near the foundation office, not far from the lake. She made her own coffee each morning. Her wardrobe slowly shifted from designer heels and fitted blazers to cardigans and soft shoes. She walked to work most days, headphones in, listening to worship music or quiet reflections. She didn't own a luxury car. She didn't take expensive vacations. She didn't need to. Her peace wasn't tied to what she had anymore. It came from who she had become. One evening, after a board meeting, one of the foundation's young interns, fresh out of college, asked her, "Why didn't you just cut ties with your family completely?" Anna paused before answering. "Because I wanted more than to walk away," she said. "I wanted to walk away without hate in my heart." "But didn't they try to take everything from you?" She smiled gently. "Yes, but I learned something after everything fell apart. You don't heal by becoming what hurt you. You heal by living the truth and choosing grace." The intern blinked slowly, visibly moved. Anna stood, her hand brushing over the verse on the wall one more time. She thought of her grandmother, how she must have known this day would come, how she had planted seeds of wisdom in Anna long before they ever blossomed into strength. Anna didn't just inherit wealth, she inherited a calling. To take the pain she once buried and use it to build refuge for others, to turn betrayal into compassion, to turn silence into voice. She didn't want to be the woman who survived. She wanted to be the woman who restored. It was a rainy Friday afternoon when they came. Her mother wore a beige trench coat and a tired face. Her father looked thinner than before, less like the man who once slammed his hand on the table in rage, more like someone who had finally run out of things to prove. They didn't carry documents or ask for meetings with lawyers. They simply knocked. Anna opened the door slowly. She hadn't expected them to come, at least not like this. But somehow her heart didn't race. Her hands didn't shake. "May we come in?" her mother asked, her voice low. Anna nodded once and stepped aside. They sat in the living room, the same one where, just months earlier, a projector played her grandmother's voice like a judge in a courtroom. But this time the atmosphere was different. No defenses, no expectations. Silence, for once, felt holy. "We're not here to ask for anything," her father finally said. "Not money, not forgiveness." Her mother swallowed, folding her hands tightly in her lap. "We just wanted to hear from you. No arguments, no plans, just you." Anna sat across from them, a manila folder in her lap. When she finally spoke, her voice was gentle but sure. "I'm not trying to cut you out of my life forever. but I can't go back to what we were. She opened the folder and pulled out 2 slim envelopes. These are names of programs. One's a financial therapy center. The other's a support group for compulsive gambling and emotional manipulation. If you're serious about healing, I'm willing to cover the costs. Her mother blinked, stunned. I won't give another check to fix damage, Anna continued, but I will invest in transformation, if you want it. Her father nodded slowly. We don't know where to begin. Anna leaned back, exhaling. Start with the truth, and let God do the rest. No one cried. No one begged. For once, the silence didn't feel like shame. It felt like surrender. Before they left, her mother paused at the door. Do you think we're terrible people? Anna looked at her, long and full. I think you're people who never learned how to love without needing control. And I think for a long time, I confused your survival for sacrifice. Her mother looked down. But I also think people can change, if they're willing. Then she opened the door. No hug, no final plea. Just an unspoken acknowledgement that this time, the boundaries were real and sacred. The following week, Anna stood at a podium inside a packed auditorium at the University of Chicago. The event was hosted by the Louise Grace Foundation and titled, When Love Costs Too Much, a conversation on family, boundaries, and financial freedom. The room was filled with students, some barely adults, others already parents, young professionals, counselors, survivors. Anna didn't bring a slideshow or statistics, just a note card with 3 bullet points. She stepped to the mic and began. My name is Anna. I'm a financial consultant, a nonprofit founder, and, until recently, a daughter who couldn't say no. A soft ripple of laughter and recognition moved through the audience. I gave my time, my salary, my savings. But what I didn't realize was that I was giving up myself, not out of love, but out of guilt, out of fear that if I stopped giving, they'd stop loving. She paused. But I've learned something. Choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's the kindest thing you can do, not just for you, but for the people you love. Anna looked out across the faces. Some were nodding, some were wiping away tears. Because when you live a life built on guilt, you spend every day apologizing for existing. She smiled gently. And you were never created to live in chains. Applause filled the hall. Not thunderous, but real, like an exhale after years of silence. As she stepped down, one student approached her, a girl no older than 21, eyes brimming with quiet fire. I just told my parents I wasn't going to co-sign their loan, for the first time ever. It was the scariest thing I've ever done. Anna touched her shoulder gently. Then you've already begun. That night, back in the foundation office, Anna opened the drawer of her desk and pulled out her grandmother's final letter. She hadn't read it in weeks. She knew the words by heart now. Dear Anna, if the day comes when you must choose between keeping your family and keeping yourself, choose yourself, because true love will never ask you to lose who you are to stay connected. She folded the letter and placed it gently back in its envelope. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just sat still in the quiet, the verse above her desk glowing gently in the lamplight. Peace, I leave with you. My peace I give you. John 14:27. That night, walking home through the soft light of the city, Anna realized the war was over. Not because she won, but because she stopped fighting. Because she chose truth. She chose grace. She chose herself. And in doing so, she finally came home.